Welcome back. In this video we are going to be talking about some of the basic tools that you'll use all the time when using Photoshop. The first tool I want to talk about is one that we briefly touched on in the last video, and that is the Move tool. The Move tool is right up here at the very top. It looks like a cursor with a four-directional arrow in the right corner of it. The keyboard shortcut for the Move tool is the letter V, and the Move tool does just what it sounds like. I can click on an object and I can move it. So here we have this rectangle being moved by the Move tool. The next tool I want to talk about is the Zoom tool. Now we're going to use the Zoom tool quite a bit because in Photoshop it's all about getting in on those details. The Zoom tool is right at the bottom of the toolbar, and the keyboard shortcut to it is the letter Z. So I just tap the letter Z and I'm on the Zoom tool. Now there's a couple of ways that I can zoom in or out. If I just click, it zooms in a level at a time. If I hold down Option or Alt on a Windows computer, then the little magnifying glass gets a minus sign in it, and now when I click it zooms out a level. Okay. Now I can also, up here at the top, I've got Fit Screen and I've got Fill Screen, so that fits the screen like so and that fills the screen up. But there's a couple of other things that we can do that are very useful and shortcuts that we'll talk about in a minute. Now, before I get into that, though, let's look at the other way that we can zoom. If you have a multi-touch trackpad, like on a Mac laptop or the Magic trackpad, you can also pinch to zoom in and out. So I can take two fingers and pinch to zoom in and out. Now, let's get back out to here. Let's talk next about a tool called the Hand tool. The Hand tool is right over here just above the Zoom tool. The keyboard shortcut to it is the letter H, and when you're on the Hand tool, it just basically moves around the canvas so you can see different parts of it when you're zoomed in. You'll use this all the time when editing. Now, there's a very nice shortcut to the Hand tool that's even better than switching to it by tapping the letter H, and that is a temporary switch to it. See, when we're using the Hand tool, we're usually right in the middle of doing something else. So maybe I'm working with the brush tool and I'm drawing some things along here, and then I get to a point where I need to move over. Well, I can just press and hold the space bar, and the space bar, while it's being held down, causes the tool to temporarily change to the Hand tool. Now I can click and drag, move it where I want, and when I let go of the spacebar, it changes back to the tool that I was using last. So that's the Hand tool. Now there's another little trick that the Hand tool and the Zoom tool hide, and that is that you can double click on them to jump to a specific magnification. So if I double click on the Zoom tool, it takes me immediately to 100% magnification. If I double click on the Hand tool, it takes me immediately to where it fills my window. Okay, so that is the Zoom tool and the Hand tool. The next tool I want to talk about is the Brush tool, and I'm going to need to make a new layer in order to do this, and we'll talk more about layers in another video. The Brush tool we use for lots of different things. When we get into things like masking and doing edits, you'll see that we jump to the Brush tool quite a bit. The Brush tool is right over here. It's about maybe a third of the way down the toolbar. The keyboard shortcut to it is just the letter B as in boy or brush. If I tap the B, I'm now on the Brush tool. Now, up here in the top on my control panel, right where I've got this little dot in this 13, I have some options for my brushes. And the main thing I'm choosing here is the size of my brush and the hardness of my brush. So right now the hardness is at 0 and the size is at 13 pixels. And you can see these are different levels. So some of these are really, really hard. Some of these are really soft. Hardness is going to give it this more feathered look like that. So let's go ahead and keep it at 13 pixels and 0, and you'll see when I let's go ahead and switch to a black. When I draw, I get this really soft fuzzy line because I have the 0 hardness. Now if I come back up here and I crank that hardness all the way up to 100%, you'll see now when I draw, I get this very sharp line because I have more hardness. And of course I can go anywhere in between those two numbers. Now I can very quickly resize my brush. I'm going to switch this to red so we can see it a little better. Just come over to my swatches, which again we'll be learning about in a later video. Now you can see that I've got this little circle for my cursor now, and that's telling me how big my brush is. The keyboard shortcut for changing the brush size are the left and right brackets. So the left bracket makes it smaller, the right bracket makes it bigger. Okay, so I can go up and change that up here, but I can also just use those left and right brackets and do that as well. Now another thing I can change is the opacity. The opacity is how solid or see-through this is. So right now I'm at 100% opacity, but if I come and I change this to 50% opacity, you'll see that I can somewhat see through it, right? And the lower I go in opacity, the more see-through it is. To 0% opacity is just completely invisible. Now I've got a keyboard shortcut for the opacity as well, and that is that all I need to do is type the number. While I'm out here working, I can just type a 90, and now I'm at 90% opacity. I can come out and just type a 35, and now I'm at 35% opacity. Type a 100, and I'm at 100% opacity again. So just type that number on there while you're working with the brush tool, and you can change that opacity just right away. Now, we've got all these predefined brushes here with certain sizes and opacities, and some of them are more custom brushes with textures and things like that. But we may sometimes create our own brushes that we're going to use. We may find that we are very regularly for this project using a 65 pixel brush at 65% opacity. So I need this brush, I'm using it a lot. I can actually save this brush so that I can use it later on. And there's a couple of ways to do that. I can go up to Edit, and under Edit, I have Define Brush Preset. And I just name that and click OK, and it'll be saved in those presets for me. I can also do it right here in this little box in the control panel. Come there, and I just click that little looks kind of like a sticky note getting curved up, and I can go ahead and change that preset or save that preset as well. So that's the brush tool. We're going to be working a lot more with the brush tool as we move through our videos here on Photoshop. The next tool I want to talk about is our eraser tool. The eraser tool is right here, right about halfway down the toolbar. The keyboard shortcut to that is E. And the eraser tool actually in many ways is controlled like the brush tool. So it is erasing, just like you would imagine. But I do have the options of the size and the hardness of the erasing as well. So I go on a softer one, it's got kind of a fuzzier edge around that erasing. So that's the eraser tool. Fairly straightforward.